Hi, I'm Gummy, and today we're gonna read some scary stories. So the idea I had for this video is it's sort of gonna be like if you had like a podcast on. I'm gonna read some stories that I found on the subreddit r/nosleep. So that subreddit, people submit their scary stories that they've written, and I think some people are so creative, and some of the stories are really, really interesting. So you might want to grab a drink, grab a snack, or just have this on in the background whilst you're cleaning your house or doing your work. And I'm gonna tell you some scary stories. So we have the first story, which is by user Vera Stahl. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And it's titled Things Keep Changing When I Look in the Box. When I was 8, I found a diorama box. You may have seen one before, or even made one for school or scouts or whatever. I had no clue what it was called at the time, just a long wooden box with a circular hole on each side and several small diamonds of frosted glass embedded across the top. I found it behind the abandoned Stonebrook Middle School, sitting like a gently placed present on a pile of broken pallets and old insulation. Even not knowing what it was, I could tell it was special. There was no way to open it, and its weight, its design, even the way the wood was carved, spoke of something out of the ordinary. And then I put my eye up to the box. Sunlight flowed and fractured from the opaque glass above, sending soft tendrils of luminescence curling up the walls and around the figures inside. I was seeing inside a house, probably the living room. The people were abstractions, just barely recognizable as people at all, and yet somehow I knew about them. That one was the mother. That one was the dad. There were a couple of kids, and on the arm of the couch, a grey lump that I thought was a cat. All of them seemed to be sitting together, watching a box that I figured was a television. I didn't get what the point of any of it was, but it was weird and fancy, so it felt like a treasure to me. I took it home with some nervousness, afraid that my parents might think I stole it and take it away. When my dad noticed it that night, he asked where I'd found it. I knew enough to lie and say the woods instead of behind Stonebrook. Something bad had happened there when I was little, and even now I think most people avoid it. He considered me a moment and then picked it up, turning it over in his hands before putting his eye up to one of the holes. Huh, that's a weird thing, isn't it? Guess it's game night, huh? Ruffling my hair, he handed it back. Good find, sport. You'll be a pirate yet. I grinned with relief, but behind that was a growing sense of confusion. Game night? I waited until I was back in my bedroom, and then I turned on the bedside light and looked in the box again. It had changed. Instead of being in a living room, now they were gathered around what looked like a dining room table. Still a father and a mother and two kids. I could even see the cat sleeping on the sideboard against the far wall. And on the table, tiny but distinct, was a board game. I didn't tell anyone about the change, of course. They'd think I was pretending or lying at best. At worst, they'd believe me and take it away. Instead, I looked at it every day, sometimes for hours. I was smart enough to hide how obsessed I was with it, though sometimes it was hard. I didn't want to miss anything after all. The scenes were always in the same house, but it would move from room to room, and the number of people and pets would change over time too. But I definitely felt like it was always the same people and house overall. Most of the time, for all the magic of the changes, the scenes themselves were pretty mundane. Just a family living their lives, doing things they do. Tiny statues devoid of features that somehow managed to always tell me exactly what was going on and how they felt about it. I remember when the son got into a fight in school, when the daughter had her first ballet lesson, the times the husband and wife fought, and the times they all came together to celebrate or comfort one another. When I was 16, I saw a change coming over the father. He wasn't sleeping much at all, and when he did, it was sitting up in a chair away from his wife. They seemed to be fighting more, everyone spent less time together, and within a few months I started to worry they might split up. The scenes didn't change every day, so I had to wait until the weekend to see the latest developments. The father was holding the mother and the children were hugged in around them too. I actually cried a little when I saw that. Whatever he'd been going through, I guess they'd all gotten through it. Then 2 weeks later, he unalived them all. The night it happened, he was back on the sofa, a laptop in his lap. I could tell it was late at night, even with the light streaming in. The shadows thrown against the floor and the walls looked like demons surrounding him, and as I watched, wanting and unable to comfort him, I saw something tiny appear beside him on the sofa. It was a knife. Despite all my untold hours of watching the thing, this is the only time I ever saw it change. The movement of the shifts hurt my brain to the point that I started pulling away after the second one, and not just because of what happened in the scenes. He goes to the son's room first and stabs him in the ear, bearing down on the blade with his weight. Then the daughter. The scene actually shifted twice there to make sure I saw him make both wounds. Then there was the wife. That scene shifted more slowly over the next 12 hours or so. When the final transition came, you couldn't tell she had ever been a person, just bits of abstract someone, spread across the bed and floor and even the walls. After that, I never looked in the box again. I bought a safety deposit box where it stayed ever since. You might think I should have destroyed it or thrown it away, but I couldn't quite manage it. Somehow I think I knew that, well, even though I was done with it, it wasn't done with me. That became very clear a few weeks ago. I haven't been myself. Terrible dreams and worse thoughts. I don't sleep. I fly off the handle at the smallest thing. Once I realised that I recognised what I was doing, it only made it that much worse. The past few days I've really tried to do better, but I can feel it isn't going to last. I have to do something. My plan had been to write all this down, read back through it, and if it didn't seem totally insane, give it to my wife in the morning. It might not make sense to her, but at least she would know what was on my mind. Except, just now, I've seen it next to me. The knife. I've never seen it before. Well, not up close and not for a very long time. I tell myself I have to get rid of it, get it away from me, away from my family, but I can't quite do that either. Maybe it's because it's not really my choice, or because it's what I really want, or maybe it's because of what I just saw. Because I did get up just now for a minute and try to throw it away, even if it was just into the yard, so long as it wasn't in sight or arm's reach. It was an eye. Monstrously gigantic, it looked this way and that, both terrifying and terrifyingly familiar. Because I knew that eye, didn't I? Knew the monster it belonged to well. It was me. That was a really good story. Like, I was hooked. That, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot. I really, really enjoy this subreddit for the stories that people come up with. And if you want, like, just something that is very creepy but very creative, it's such a good subreddit to read. The second story we're going to read is by someone called Random Questions 27296. And the story is called There's a Reason I Don't Sleep with the Door Open Anymore. I haven't talked about this in years, not even to my therapist, but I'm writing it down now because last night at 2:12 a.m. I heard the knock again. Same rhythm, same pause, the same sick feeling crawling up the back of my throat. I used to think it was a demon. I know how that sounds, but when you're a kid, there are things you should just know without proof. You don't question why your closet makes you nauseous or why the attic door feels like it's breathing. You just know something's wrong. And something was very wrong in that house. We moved in when I was 9. Old Victorian at the edge of a dead-end street. Slope floors, wallpaper like dried blood. My mum called it a fresh start. She'd just gotten serious with her new boyfriend, Rick. He helped pave the place but stayed in the city at first, so for a while it was just me and her. The first night, I couldn't sleep. Normal new house stuff, I thought, until I heard it. Knock. Just one, soft, like someone gently tapped their knuckle against my door. I sat up in bed, listening hard. Knock, knock, knock. 3 more, spaced out, deliberate. Then, silence. I got up and opened the door. The hallway was empty. I asked my mum in the morning if she checked on me. She said no. She looked tired. Her hands were shaking when she poured her coffee. I noticed a red mark on her neck. She said it was a bug bite. That night, I stacked books against the door, just in case. The knocking came again, same time, around 2 a.m. But this time, it didn't stop. It turned into scraping, like nails dragging across the door, then breathing, wet and slow, right up against the wood. I heard it say something I didn't understand. Too low, too garbled. And then I smelled it. Rot, like something dead had been stuffed under the floorboards. I didn't sleep, just stared at the door, flashlight clutched tight. In the morning, my mum had a bruise on her arm, purple and angry, like someone had grabbed her too hard. She said she tripped on the stairs. Wouldn't meet my eyes when she said it. It kept happening. Some nights, it tried the doorknob. Other nights, I'd hear it crawl across the hall. And once, I heard crying, soft, broken sobs like someone trying not to be heard. Sometimes it came for me, sometimes it didn't, but someone always got hurt. The worst was when I forgot to block the door. I was half asleep when I heard the slow creak of it opening. I froze, pulled the covers over my head. Something stepped into the room. It didn't walk right. Too heavy, too slow. The mattress dipped beside me. And it breathed. Right in my face. Hot, sour, and wrong. Then, finally, it left. In the morning, I had scratches across my back, through my shirt. I didn't tell my mum. She already looked like she was unraveling. Eventually, Rick moved in. Just showed up one day with his bags, and that looked like he belonged there all along. The weird part? The knocking stopped. But the house didn't feel safer. It felt worse. Colder, heavier. And my mum seemed even more withdrawn. I started having dreams of someone watching me from the hallway, tall and thin with no face, just a mouth full of too many teeth. Sometimes I woke up with bruises, sometimes with dirt under my nails. Once I woke up outside, lying on the porch, barefoot. My hands were bleeding. I told my mum we had to leave. She cried, said she'd find a way. That night, she locked her bedroom door, and I waited. 2:09 a.m. Footsteps. They didn't stop outside my door this time. They kept going, towards hers. I heard her murmur something, confused, half asleep. Rick? Then a crash, and a scream, then silence. I ran to her room. The door was open just enough. Inside the dark, something was crouched over her, tall, wrong. It held her down, hands wrapped around her wrists. She was fighting, kicking, sobbing. Then it turned to me and grinned. I didn't think. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I could find. When I came back, it was still on top of her. I screamed, ran forward, and drove the blade into its back. Again, and again, and again, until it slumped to the floor. My mum was screaming at me. I looked down. It wasn't a monster. No claws, no fangs. Just a man. Just Rick. His face was caved in, one eye open, one shut, lips split like someone had tried to tear the truth out of them. The police came, said it was self-defense, said I saved her, but she never looked at me again. We moved out of the house. She never spoke to me after that. Years later, I still don't sleep with the door open. I live alone now. 1-bedroom apartment, 3rd floor. No creaks, no attic, no shadows in the hallway. Still, last night I woke up at 2:12 a.m. Knock, 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 tap. And a voice behind the door. Not growling, not whispering, just tired. Why? This morning I found something under my bed. My old flashlight, cracked, the one I used to keep under my pillow, still faintly glowing, and it smells like cigarette smoke. This story that we're going to read is by Carl Sefney, and it is titled, I Had to Work on the 13th Floor, but my building only has 12. I've never been good with names, but dates cling to me like dust on an industrial carpet. It was on May 19th at exactly 4:42 p.m. that I received my first envelope marked floor 13. I say received for lack of a better verb. It was simply there, resting on my formica desk as if it had grown out of the office to dry air. I remember that moment with total clarity because I write everything down, including now. That afternoon was already dragging its last breath. I had to shut down my computer, push back my chair with a faint creak, and slid my arms into my coat. I was ready to leave, prepared for another silent walk to the bus terminal. Then the envelope appeared. I heard no footsteps, felt no presence near my cubicle, no rustling of paper, no shift in the air. It was just there. Its colour was a deliberately dull shade of grey, and yet something about it held your gaze as if the paper's very texture had been engineered to absorb curiosity. Sender. Internal Unit. Late compilation. Task. Report non-human activity in Sector B between midnight and 3 a.m. Instructions. Remain objective. Avoid emotional qualifiers. Names are unnecessary. Floor 13. The problem was that floor 13 didn't exist, at least not officially. The building I work in, or worked in, maybe, I'm not sure anymore, is a blank concrete block from the 90s, dressed in modern pretensions that reek of quiet decay. 12 floors in total. Elevator buttons from G to 12. A lobby cafe with the permanent smell of burnt coffee and stale sweet rolls. But if you really pay attention to the details, you'll notice something strange about the 12th floor. There's an unmarked door, always locked, tucked into a corner where the lighting never quite settles. Sometimes, during the graveyard shift, when most employees have cleared out and silence creeps in like a shy guest, you can hear things. Furniture being dragged, slow footsteps, something heavy moving above our heads. It never lasts long, just enough to keep the theories alive. My co-workers had their own explanations. A shadow government surveillance office, secret cults funded by upper management, experimental labs run by private contractors. One said aliens. I never cared. Not until the envelope. I took it to my supervisor, Lionel. He's an old school type, the only one who still uses a fountain pen and insists on recycled paper. When I mentioned floor 13, he looked up with an expression I still can't describe. It was as if I had finally said something he'd been expecting for years. You got one? He asked, his voice steady and flat. I nodded. He gave a simple reply. Then follow it. No explanation, no reassurance, just silence. A silence that stretched until it became uncomfortable, as though he wanted to make it clear that the conversation was over. This point forward, I belonged to another layer of the structure. I returned to my desk, unsure of what to do. I placed the envelope back down and stared at it as if it might eventually open itself and explain. At 6 p.m. sharp, I clocked out like always. But that night, the envelope came home with me. Not physically, it was inside me. The task, a non-existent flaw, Lionel's gaze. At exactly 3 a.m., a time I would usually be asleep or flipping muted TV channels, I found myself opening my work laptop and logging into the shared notes system. I typed, hesitantly, nothing to report, no non-human presence detected, report concluded. I closed the file, shut the laptop, and went to bed thinking it was all some kind of elaborate office prank, a tasteless corporate joke. But deep down, I knew better. The next morning, my access badge didn't work. The scanner flashed red. The glass doors stayed shut. The receptionist, a woman I had never seen before with strangely generic features, looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. "You're not in the system," she said, her voice flat, rehearsed. I tried to argue, gave her my name, my department, my extension. She kept typing without expression, like she was pretending to search a database that didn't exist. When I mentioned Lionel, she raised an eyebrow and replied coldly, "There's no one here by that name." Something inside me broke. I don't know what exactly, but a sudden, uncontrollable urgency took a hold of me. A blind impulse, something almost primitive. I did something I never imagined I would. I ran. I tore down the hallway, heart pounding, lungs burning. At the last turn, the elevator stood open as if it had been waiting. The doors slid wide in eerie calm. The cabin was empty, lit in a sterile white that felt more surgical than safe. I heard footsteps behind me, maybe security, maybe the receptionist, maybe something else. I didn't wait. I stepped in, the doors closed, the elevator began to rise on its own. The numbers climbed. I found myself hoping that it would stop at 12. It stopped right there. The doors opened with a soft hiss. The 12th floor was pitch black, silent except for the low hum of a flickering light bulb somewhere deep within. The only illumination came from a red exit sign glowing faintly at the end of a hallway. And then I heard the ping. My work laptop. Somehow, it was on. That made no sense. I'd shut it down. I remembered the entire sequence, save documents, close windows, hold the button, watch the screen go dark. But there it was, at the far end of that dark corridor, casting a ghostly glow from a room that shouldn't exist. I approached slowly, almost unwillingly. My legs moved without checking in with my mind. Each step echoed too loudly, as if the halls hadn't seen a visitor in decades. The linoleum was colder than usual. The air was damp, a kind of humidity that didn't match the HVAC system. Something was off. When I reached my cubicle, the same one with my papers, my chip mug, my favourite pen off to the side, I saw the notes app open on the screen, and it was typing. By itself. Presence detected. Non-human interaction initiated. Reporter present. Reporter being observed. The monitor flicked softly, like it was breathing unevenly. The cursor blinked, waiting. I stepped back. My heart was hammering and the air behind me grew dense, as if watched by something that had no eyes. Then I saw the reflection. It wasn't mine. There was something behind me. Something only the screen could register. Its silhouette was wrong. Too tall, too narrow. Its head stretched upward unnaturally, searching for a ceiling that wasn't there. And even without a face, I knew it was watching me. I spun around. Nothing. The hallway stood empty, its lights pulsing irregularly, like a heartbeat on the verge of collapse. The laptop chimed again. Escape not recommended. Observation must continue. That was when it hit me, not just fear but a dread that settled into my bones. I was being held, not by walls or hands, but by something deeper, an enchantment, a pressure, Something clamped over my will like a lid over a sealed jar. Then came the sound. A snap, close by, like bones cracking. It broke the spell. I ran, for real this time. I knocked over chairs, slammed into a partition, didn't dare look back. I knew that if I did, I'd see it, or worse, I wouldn't see anything, but I'd feel it. The presence, the touch, skin that wasn't skin. The elevator was still there, waiting, doors open like a mouth. But when I reached it, the digital display showed something impossible. Floor 13. That was never there. Never. Not during testing, not during maintenance. The floor number glowed in a dark red like clotted blood. And worse, the lobby button was unlit. No option to go down. That's when I heard it. Not footsteps, not whispers. A dragging sound. Something heavy, wet, moving across the linoleum like a raw meat being pulled by trembling hands. A sweet, rotten smell filled my nose. It was like jasmine left to rot in an open grave. The doors began to close. I threw myself inside. At the exact moment the doors met, I saw it for less than a second. Not the whole thing, just a part. An arm, far too long, with joints where no joints should be. Its skin looked like wet paper mache, and the fingers, they didn't end. They just kept growing, reaching, searching for something to grasp. An eye, a single eye, was open in the centre of the palm. It saw me, and I saw it. The elevator began to descend, but the digital display was off. No number, no indication. The sensation was of a slow, steady fall, like we weren't heading to a floor, but being pulled away from the world. That sweet, putrid smell like something rotting under the sun clung to my clothes, to my tongue. For a moment, I wondered if I'd ever leave. If this elevator was some kind of endless limbo, and time had stopped behaving the way it used to. But then, with a soft mechanical sigh, the doors opened. 12th floor. Everything was normal. The fluorescent lights were on, white and impersonal. The dull hum of keyboards, the muffled rhythm of printers, the distant murmur of voices in the break room. No sign of dampness, no darkness, no empty hallways. There they were, my co-workers, sitting in the cubicles. The same people, the same faces, the same problems. Lionel walked past with a coffee cup in hand and raised an eyebrow when he saw me stepping out of the elevator, probably pale and tense. "Whoa, looks like you've just seen a ghost," he said, in the same sarcastic tone he used every morning. I didn't answer. I just walked to my desk. My computer was on, showing the login screen waiting for my password. Everything suggested I had just arrived, like any other day. My documents were stacked neatly in the corner, my mug in its usual place. Nothing out of the ordinary, or at least nothing anyone else could see. I sat down and typed my password with still trembling fingers. Since 8 a.m. I've been trying to work. I look at emails, spreadsheets, pending requests, but I can't type a single line that isn't this one. I don't know how long that moment lasted. I don't know if anyone noticed anything. Apparently not. But right now, as I write, I catch something in the reflection of my screen. Another envelope. White, identical to the first one, placed on my desk, behind me. I had a lot of fun reading those stories. I absolutely love horror and I love reading, so it was a good combination of the two. And I know that I personally like to watch videos like that just to have one in the background if I'm doing something, so I thought it could be something fun to try. I hope you enjoyed the stories too, and if you were feeling generous and wanted to leave a like or subscribe, that would be super, super kind, and I would be very, very grateful. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.